We are on lesson 4, and you are still with me. In our first 3 lessons, the Queen Mom has addressed the character of her son. She did it in a way that speaks to all of us, sons and daughters. Now we've come to the beginning of what we've been waiting for, the description of this one that we are calling Moxy. I'm Jeannie, and Moxy is an old friend of mine. I've known her since I was a teen, and I fell in love with her immediately. Moxy is the ultimate example of a woman who is a force of character, determination, courage, and nerve. And in this proverb, it is filled with descriptives. But here are just a few that stick out to me this week. She is reliable, she is trustworthy, she is kindness, and she is rare. In our last lesson, the Queen gave us 3 specific instructions. The first was, don't give it away. The second, don't lose control. And the third, to speak out. Did you identify any life suckers in your life? Not only the people, but the things? Life suckers will never disappear completely. We have to learn how to manage them. And we are finally here, at the beginning of a detailed description of the real woman. In lesson 4, we are titling this lesson Reliability. And the verse reads, her husband relies on her, and he will lack nothing. I said in the very beginning that this proverb has been pigeonholed into describing a woman in the role of being a wife. If that is how you've always thought about this proverb, then we have to wipe that from our minds with each verse. Instead, we need to see a woman in all the roles that she plays in a lifetime. Here is just a few of them that I came up with in a few short moments. This is one of the lists that is endless and ever changing. So this verse could read, she is reliable and all who rely on her lack nothing. It takes a lot to rely on somebody. There are many we think we should be able to rely on, and there are only a few that are truly reliable. It takes time to build a level of trust that's required to be relied on. A reliable person is trustworthy. They're honest. They're dependable. She shows up when she says, and she completes the tasks that she takes on. Reliable people are organized, they manage their time wisely, and they know how to prioritize their day. They know how much they can handle. They don't allow themselves to be too busy, to be scatterbrained or late, and they're rarely frustrated looking for things that they have lost. When you think about it, a reliable person being trustworthy and honest, dependable, showing up when she says and completing tasks that she has, I would like for you to rate your reliability index. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you fall? And then, would you rely on you? That's a very interesting question. And if you feel that you may lack a little bit in this area of reliability, what is the number 1 obstacle that keeps you from being a reliable person? I'm guessing that at the top of the list for most of us, it's that 4-letter word, time. Several years ago, I was in a small group of women who met on a regular basis, and one of the members of our group was a young woman who had a full-time career job. She had family who lived close by. She was involved in all kinds of activities outside of work, and she was newly married. So every time we met, she would complain about not having enough time, being unorganized, feeling like she was losing herself. Time was something that she just wanted more of. And finally, one night, after listening to her complain about the time issue, I simply said, "You have all the time you need." She stopped and she looked at me. By saying you don't have enough time, you're making one of 2 statements. Either the God of the universe messed up when he designed the solar system, or you're trying to do just a little too much. And I'm going to bet that it's the second. You see, our entire universe is based on a 24-hour rotation. That little moon out there takes 24 hours to circle the Earth, and the Earth spins around completely in 24 hours. There are 365 of those 24-hour segments that make up an entire year, and that is the same amount of time it takes for the Earth to circle the Sun. Time is not something that can be stopped. I'd like to see you try. It's impossible to control it. Rather, it must be respected. Respect. We only get so much time in this life. Once we learn to respect it, we can then follow the Queen's instructions and not waste it. Learning to respect time and learning how not to waste it makes prioritizing our day, our week, our life so much easier because we aren't fighting against this enormous power called time. We are working with it. Let's do a little equation. We have 24 hours in our day. Now we need to eat and sleep, get dressed. That eats up about 10 hours of their day. And then if you work and you work a full-time job, that's an 8-hour day, plus lunch, plus commute time. You've taken another 10 hours out of the pot. What's left? 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day for 5 days out of the week if you have a 5-day work week. That's not a lot of time. It needs to be managed. It needs to be controlled. It needs to be prioritized. One of the things that gets us into so much trouble is we become overcommitters. We're afraid to say no, to let someone down or to hurt their feelings. So let me give you a little insight. When you overcommit and then have to back out, you've put the person you were afraid to let down even in a worse situation. Now they have to find a replacement. It would have been much easier if you would have said no at the very beginning. So if you are at fault of being an overcommitter, stop it. Just don't do it anymore. Respect the other person's time and say no from the beginning. I have people in my own life who I know that when they offer to do something for me, I need a backup because there's a 99% chance that they're going to back out at the last minute and cause me more work. Don't be that person. And then make sure that your word is deed. In other words, do what you say you're going to do. If you can't follow through, don't commit in the first place. We must honor our commitments first. If you're married or in a relationship, that has to be on your list. If you've decided to have children, they take a lot of time. And if you work, you've made a commitment to your boss that you will give your time and your talents in exchange for a paycheck. So be a woman of your word and do that. I have heard recently of people being terminated for theft of time, and I love that description. Theft of time. If we understood how precious time was when people in our life came in and wasted it, took it from us, distracted us, or when we overcommitted ourselves and we were doing things that we knew at the very beginning we should have never even started, we would suddenly see it as theft of time, taking something from us that is essential to us as the air we breathe. Following our commitments, prioritizing our commitment are essential, especially when 5 days a week, all we have is about 4 hours a day to get it all done. And there's one more priority that we have to consider, and that is the practice of resting. In the creation story, God created in 6 days. Now, you may believe it was 6 days. You may believe it was 6,000 years. You may believe it was 6 million years. It doesn't really matter. It took 6 something to create. And then on the 7th, he rested. Few examples are given to us where God himself does something and then tells us to follow his example. Resting is not doing nothing, and I don't believe it's sleeping all day. It doesn't say God did nothing. Instead, it says he rested. It was intentional. It is so important that it made it on the top 10 list of rules. It's right there among the don't kill anyone and don't lie and steal. Keep the Sabbath holy isn't going to church. It's about taking time to rest, to renew, to meditate, to worship. It is essential to our well-being. It is our most important me time. Resting restores us and keeps us focused. When God made woman, he did so as an equal helpmate, which means we are made to work together in partnership. He made us to be relied on. The second part of that verse says, and they will have no lack. This is true for anyone who is reliant on this woman, her children, her spouse, her business partner. I love that they lack for nothing. Our world runs better when we have someone to rely on. Lacking for nothing is not a one-sided statement. This isn't, she does all the work supplying her partner with their every need. This is a picture of two people working together as a unit, relying on each other, freeing each other to be the most that they can be, and in return, both reap the rewards. If one lacks for nothing, then so does the other. Together they prosper. This can be true in every one of our relationships. We feel fulfilled when our kids succeed. We are affirmed when our business thrives. Others will have no lack when they partner with you. That is an amazing statement. The prayer that I leave with you this week is this: trusting Father, help us to understand the gift of time. Help us to cherish it and respect it. Most of all, guide us in the ways that we can use it to its fullest. Teach us the secret of resting. Help us to prioritize this power called time. Make us women of our word. Help us to follow through with our commitments, and give us the confidence to say no when it is required. Thank you for joining me in our fourth lesson, reliability. It's the first characteristic and should have high priority in our lives. And I will give you my word. I will be here for lesson 5 because my word is deed. We are becoming women clothed in strength and dignity and can laugh without fear at the future. If you haven't already contacted me, please take some time to do so. I would so love to hear about you and your Moxy journey. You can contact me through my website at www.jeanniegb.com, or you can email me directly at moxy@silverthread.com. I look forward to our next meeting.